The courtroom? Oh, it was buzzing like a live wire, tension so thick you could practically taste it. And there stood Chief Judge William Pryor, eyes cold and voice cutting, delivering what can only be described as a devastating blow straight to Meghan Markle's legal fortress. This wasn't just a setback, well, this was a meltdown. As the words rolled off his tongue, the atmosphere cracked like thunder. His sharp rebuke to Meghan's elite attorneys didn't just sting, it echoed through the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, leaving even the most seasoned royal watchers wide-eyed in shock. And Samantha Markle's camp, they were ecstatic, practically toasting their strategic victory in whispered cheers.
I think meeting Harry, being with Harry, marrying Harry has improved your sister's behavior, or do you think it's made it worse, the whole situation?
Mark your calendars, because September 9th, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day Meghan's meticulously crafted legal machine crumbled under pressure. Insiders close to the courtroom painted a picture of pure discomfort. Everyone could feel it, as Judge Pryor methodically tore apart every piece of Meghan's supposedly bulletproof arguments. This wasn't casual criticism, it was surgical destruction, striking right at the core of what legal analysts are now calling a fundamentally broken defense strategy.
I think he has personality profile that perfectly enables someone who is an alleged narcissist.
And get this, word from inside the appeals court says Meghan's high-powered attorneys actually looked visibly shaken when Pryor hit them with the cold words that their arguments were, quote, beside the point. Yikes. This wasn't just legal nitpicking. This was public humiliation on a grand scale. The same legal dream team that had once shielded Meghan from wave after wave of attacks suddenly appeared to be scrambling, fumbling to patch up basic procedural issues they'd shockingly overlooked. Palace insiders whisper that the news of this courtroom disaster blitzed its way to Meghan's Montecito mansion within hours, sending shockwaves through her inner circle.
I think she's capable of empathy, remorse, or shame. I don't think she could feel enough to apologize.
Remember, this is the woman who's built her whole post-royal empire on being in control, the resilient victim who always fights back. And now, she was on the receiving end of a judicial beatdown so brutal that not even her seasoned PR army could spin it. Meanwhile, Samantha Markle's attorney, Peter Tickton, wasted zero time. Like a shark scenting blood, he pounced, seizing on every single misstep Meghan's team made and flipping them into golden fuel for his client's appeal. Legal observers are still buzzing, calling his performance nothing short of masterful.
There's not a pillow under your skirt, and there's live footage of her walking towards camera with her abdomen swaying left to right in a black and white check.
Oh, the irony of it all. Meghan, the woman who spent years painting herself as the wronged one in every family feud, has now been outmaneuvered by the very half-sister she's tried to erase from the narrative. And make no mistake, this courtroom drama isn't just about one defamation case anymore. This is being whispered as the start of a whole new chapter, one where Meghan's once untouchable legal armor is finally starting to crack. Peter Tickton didn't walk into that courtroom. He stormed in like a general heading into battle. And his takedown of Meghan's defense strategy, absolutely ruthless. He didn't just poke holes in their legal theories, he obliterated them. Tickton accused Meghan's team of throwing everything at the wall just to see what sticks. And honestly, the word he used, smorgasbord, has been haunting Meghan's legal team ever since. Court insiders described Tickton's delivery as cold, calculated, and downright devastating. Legal commentators are calling it one of the sharpest courtroom metaphors in years, perfectly painting Meghan's attorneys as frantic, disorganized, and utterly unsure of their own defense. Instead of burying everyone under dense legal jargon, Tickton played it brilliantly simple. He spotlighted the gaping hole in Meghan's strategy, her team's refusal to directly confront the heart of Samantha's accusations. His unspoken challenge was crystal clear. If Meghan's case is so solid, why are her lawyers running from the truth? And here's the kicker. Insiders say Tickton had been preparing this ambush for months. He studied every brief, every motion, every public statement Meghan's team made. This wasn't just legal work. This was a masterclass in strategic litigation, exposing the cracks in what many thought was an impenetrable fortress. He reframed the whole narrative in one strike. Instead of Meghan as the persecuted victim of a baseless lawsuit, he painted her as someone whose legal team is so unsure of their footing that they can't even stick to a single coherent argument. Royal commentators are already whispering about the brand damage this could cause. Meghan's image has always been about moral authority and strength, but now she's looking like someone who's lost her grip. And the worst part? Meghan's team never saw it coming. Palace sources reveal they were expecting a routine legal scuffle, not this kind of rhetorical warfare that transforms a courtroom into a public relations bloodbath. But the smorgasbord attack, that was only the opening act of Meghan's legal nightmare. What happened next? Oh, buckle up, because this wasn't just a stumble. This was a legal catastrophe of epic proportions. In what observers are already calling an unprecedented public admission of incompetence, Meghan's superstar attorneys had to confess, right there in open court, that they'd overlooked critical elements in their motion to dismiss. Let that sink in. One of the most expensive legal teams in Hollywood basically handed Samantha's side a roadmap to victory. Courtroom witnesses described the moment as utterly surreal. These weren't rookie lawyers fumbling through their first big case. These were seasoned pros billing Meghan hundreds of dollars an hour, and they stood there admitting to amateur-level blunders. You could see the disbelief ripple through the courtroom. Even Judge Pryor's face reportedly shifted from skeptical to outright stunned as the scale of the oversight came into focus. Legal experts were floored. One prominent defamation attorney speaking anonymously called it legal malpractice in real time. And the worst part? Meghan's team didn't even try to fix these gaps beforehand. They waited until oral arguments to acknowledge them, which screamed unpreparedness. And for a case this high profile, that's unforgivable. Sources close to the scene say Peter Tickton could barely hide his satisfaction. Meghan's lawyers were practically building his case for him. Every time they admitted an oversight, every time they acknowledged a procedural gap, they were basically handing him ammo to argue that the original dismissal was flawed from the start. It was like watching someone hand over the keys to their own destruction. And oh, the ripple effects? They hit hard and fast. Word is, Meghan's broader legal strategy is now under urgent internal review. Other ongoing cases are being re-examined with growing panic. The woman who built her entire post-royal image on competence and control is suddenly being whispered about as legally incompetent on a national stage. Palace insiders say frantic emergency meetings were called in Montecito, with crisis managers and legal strategists scrambling, trying to figure out how to contain the fallout. Because when your own attorneys are making admissions that strengthen your enemy's case, you know you've wandered into uncharted territory. But here's the thing. That courtroom implosion, it was just the prelude to something even darker, because at the heart of Samantha Markle's legal assault lies a set of allegations so serious, they've reportedly left Meghan's team completely rattled. According to court documents, Samantha's lawsuit claims that Meghan's carefully choreographed media blitz, especially that explosive Oprah interview and her Netflix series, weren't just airing family laundry. No, Samantha says they were calculated attacks, designed to destroy her reputation and even endanger her safety. And here's the part that's giving everyone chills. Samantha's side says that after Meghan's public statements, credible death threats started flooding Samantha's life. These weren't just nasty internet comments either. Sources close to Samantha insist they were specific, detailed threats so severe that law enforcement had to get involved. And the timing? Samantha's legal team says it's no coincidence. The threats allegedly spiked right after Meghan portrayed Samantha as a spreader of disinformation. Court filings paint a deeply disturbing picture, accusing Meghan of weaponizing her global fame to unleash a tidal wave of hate on her own half-sister. Even something as seemingly harmless as Meghan telling Oprah she grew up as an only child is being portrayed by Samantha's lawyers as a deliberate attempt to erase her existence. And the Netflix series, it allegedly doubled down, depicting Samantha as an opportunistic troublemaker instead of a real family member with real concerns. Legal experts say this disinformation angle is powerful because in today's climate, labeling someone as a spreader of false information can make them a target for online mobs. And Meghan's defense, that her statements were just opinions, gets much weaker if the result was actual threats to Samantha's safety. Insiders say these death threat claims have rocked Meghan's legal team to the core because it completely shifts the tone of the case. This isn't just about hurt feelings or public embarrassment anymore. This is about real-world consequences of reckless celebrity influence. Palace sources whisper that Meghan's lawyers desperately hope to frame this whole lawsuit as petty family drama. But the moment safety threats were brought in, that strategy went out the window because you can't spin death threats as a publicity stunt, especially when law enforcement records reportedly back them up. And as this revelation hit, the stakes in that courtroom skyrocketed. September 9th will now be remembered as the day Meghan's myth of legal invincibility completely collapsed, in full public view, What was supposed to be a routine appellate hearing turned into a public dissection of her legal empire, with her high-powered team looking like deer in headlights. Sources inside the courtroom said the tension was almost unbearable as it became clear that Meghan's team wasn't just losing the argument, they were being systematically dismantled. And then, the moment that sealed their fate. As the hearing dragged on, what started as a few skeptical glances from the bench turned into a full-blown judicial roast. The appellate panel began grilling Meghan's lawyers one by one, each judge taking turns poking gaping holes in their arguments like seasoned hunters toying with wounded prey. Legal observers were stunned. Appellate courts are known for being polite, reserved, even detached. But this was a public dismantling. When Chief Judge Pryor dropped his now infamous line that their arguments were beside the point, it wasn't just legal critique. It was a smackdown broadcast to the entire legal world. Sources say Meghan's legal all-stars, who are used to walking into courtrooms dripping authority and commanding respect, looked utterly rattled. Gone were the confident tones, the polished rebuttals. Instead, they were stammering, scrambling, desperately trying to plug leaks in a sinking ship they didn't realize was already underwater. And on the other side of the room, Peter Tickton, calm as ever, like a cat watching a bowl of cream tip over. Court watchers said it was almost eerie how he just let Meghan's team dig their own grave, then casually stepped in to frame himself as the voice of reason and preparation. The contrast was brutal. While Meghan's team flailed, Tickton delivered a crisp, clear narrative that landed perfectly with the judges. It was obvious to everyone in the room. This rhetorical battle was over before it even began. Veteran court reporters, people who've seen thousands of appellate arguments, were reportedly exchanging glances, eyes wide, as if silently saying, "Are we really watching this happen?" Because the mismatch was that glaring. Legal commentators are already calling it a textbook example of how not to handle an appellate hearing. And royal insiders? They're buzzing that the damage stretches way beyond this case. Meghan has spent years portraying herself as poised, prepared, and utterly unshakable. But watching her elite lawyers get systematically taken apart in public undercuts everything her brand stands for. And this courtroom humiliation, it was just the visible tip of a much larger strategic disaster still unfolding behind closed doors.